Been a little while since we did one of these X-Men casting videos because we have not had a lot of X-Men casting rumors to talk about. I feel like there is a good team, and maybe I'll talk about that in a future video, of potential people that are cast, but we have not gotten very many new characters. However, there was one that came out the other day, one rumor that I was a little bit interested in. And then as the days went on, I thought, you know what, let's talk about it, because there's been one character that Marvel fans have been hoping will make an appearance for a while. And in fact, they did in a movie that no one remembers they made an appearance in. But it's one of those characters that comic people see and go, this is a show or a movie. Like, this character with the right actor could be something very exciting. It could be something new that Marvel hasn't really done too much of yet, although they've done a little bit of musical stuff. But it's something that would feel very exciting. And of course, I'm talking about a movie or show, we don't really know what it even would be, about Allison Blair, aka the Disco Dazzler. Now, Dazzler is a character many people are somewhat familiar with. She had a solo book recently, and she's been around since like the 70s or 80s. A lot of people know Dazzler from some form of X media. And I think the pitch for Dazzler is quite simple. Allison Blair is a mutant who has the ability to turn sound into light, which she's able to turn light into like laser beams and solid constructs, kind of. So it's a little bit Black Canary and a little bit closer to Songbird, although Songbird and her are pretty similar. So let's say it's a little bit Black Canary and a little bit like Claw, who's a character that she, spoiler alert, did kill at one point by just absorbing him into her. So that's a character that I would say she's compared to a lot. She's kind of Green Lantern. Sometimes she does very constructy constructs, like she will make a thing with sound, but a lot of times it's sound turned into a big flash of lights and explosion, and she uses that offensively. But the power set is not what's fun about Dazzler, and we will talk about the actor that is rumored to play them. Don't worry, I'm going to get to that. But first, I want you to understand like what's cool about this character and why so many fans have been going like, do Dazzler in something. And I will say, to be fair, Dazzler did show up in X-Men Dark Phoenix, or it's the movie just called Dark Phoenix, and she was in, X-Men 97 very briefly, but she has not played a big role, I would say, in X media outside of comics. Now, Dazzler was a very popular character when she came out. The idea behind Dazzler was a music company came to Marvel and they were like, let's make a musical Marvel character. They were even gonna make a movie where like Kiss would play Marvel characters and like Cher would play Marvel characters. That would introduce Dazzler, who is, like I said, a mutant with the ability to take sound and turn it into light, which she can use to, shoot laser beams and stuff. But very important, this character, Allison, was also a professional singer. And specifically because this character was introduced in the 70s, I think, she was a disco singer. Disco is very popular. You compare this character to someone like Donna Summer at the time. And one thing that's kind of interesting about her, she was originally intended to be black, but that didn't take. I believe it's because they were going to have a different actor play her in another movie that never got made. But that actor was white. I believe it's Bo Derek, who people, I believe, might recognize from one of the early James Bond movies. But that, I believe, is why the character looks the way she does. She was originally planned to be a black woman, which makes sense because, and I'm not a big musical guy here, but like Donna Summer feels like clearly the inspiration for this character. Now, Dazzler would go on to have a lot of adventures with mutants and other characters, non-mutants, and for a while it was secret that she was a mutant, I believe, but then eventually she was outed to the world, and Dazzler became this very interesting X-Men character because she was never fully on the X-Men. She joined, I believe, for a little bit, but then when they got Siege Perilist and stuff, she was not on the team after that. But Dazzler is a rare kind of X-Men character because she's not known for being on the X-Men. She's known for doing her own thing. And she is, I would say, the most famous singer in the Marvel Comics universe because she is like a pop star. She's kind of existed in this weird state because like so many of the Marvel characters are not tied specifically to like a time period. However, Dazzler is tied to disco, which is very much a musical genre that, even though it, has come back in some forms, was largely a product of the 70s. But Dazzler is now like a more conventional pop star. It's like she still acknowledges that she was a disco star, and we all just don't really think about it. And I mean, she's been brought back to life at least a couple of times because, spoiler alert, she was invincible for a while, but nobody liked that, so we don't really talk about it. But like, if Marvel Comics characters are going to a concert, there's a good chance, for a while at least, it was a Dazzler concert. Now, there are other characters like Luna Snow, who is a musician, who is a K-pop star, There's Lila Cheney, who was a contemporary of Dazzler, like she was around at the same time. Luna Snow is very new, but Lila Cheney was a punk rocker who had the ability to teleport and dated Cannonball for a while, and like she's cool. But Alison Blair is way more mainstream. She appeals to, the kids and is like an all ages act. She's not particularly provocative, even though the character has gone through darker periods in her life. So like, I think you can see the pitch here. She is a singer who is secretly a mutant, or maybe publicly a mutant, and tries to use her profile to bring people together. That's one of the things that I think recently has been interesting about Dazzler, is she exists as sort of a bridge. Like, obviously, whether mutants are hated and feared is always kind of in flux, but even though that's always true, Dazzler has managed to maintain like a mainstream audience, and she's trying to use that to like make mutants more acceptable. If you want like 3 Dazzler comics, and they're not really individual comics, but like if you want to read 3 comics, there's a recent Dazzler series that just came out like a year or 2 ago. There was Exterminators, which is a very fun book by Leah Williams, which I would say, everybody liked when it came out. It was one of the Krakoan books like in the 2020s. And then there was a Dazzler solo from 2010. It was a 1 issue, but it gets into her backstory, relationship with like her sister, her main villain, who is Celine Gaio, the Italian vampire mutant who kind of, because of this weird connection to like the unkillable mutants, was like obsessed with Dazzler for a little bit, and they were in the same circles, and then she ruined Dazzler's life during Necrotia. It's a long story, but that's Dazzler. Mutant pop star, can turn sound into light and light energy. Supposed to be kind of fun, appeals to all ages. There have been suggestions that Dazzler's going to show up in something for a while. Besides the fact that, like, originally she was going to be introduced in, like, a movie or something. I mean, it never came to fruition. And like I said, she does show up in Dark Phoenix, played by Halston Sage. It's a small cameo, although it's kind of what she should be doing, which is entertaining people. She's not in the big fights. She is just around, and if there is a party, she'll sing at it. I would say Dazzler's one of those mutants that's traditionally, like, in her late 20s, maybe. She's not a kid, but it's so weird because of the fact that she's kind of been a disco musician, and yet she is still young. She also has like roller skates and a super fun old costume with like blue face paint. She had another costume that's the blue costume that I think she wore in X-Men 97. Also fun, but I do think the classic Dazzler costume is great. Okay, so that's Dazzler. For a while, the actor many people, including myself, wanted to play Dazzler and thought would be perfect for Dazzler was Taylor Swift. Now, I know Taylor Swift is not known as an actor, although I'm sure she can do it. I feel like she's probably acted in some stuff that I'm forgetting right now. But beyond that, like, she is the closest thing we have right now to a Dazzler, a blonde pop star who is a huge touring sensation and people get really excited about. That is like Dazzler, and especially because it's pop music now. Dazzler's music tends to be pretty positive. So like a song like Shake It Off or something like that would fit right into Dazzler's catalog. Also, I don't want to say Taylor Swift looks like Dazzler because she looks a little bit like she's white and blonde, but also she's like somewhat tall, and I've always associated that with Dazzler. I guess it's probably because of the costume and like the roller skates, but like she always seems to have like kind of long legs, which we'll get to. I don't even know how tall Taylor Swift is, but how tall is Taylor Swift? Let's look it up. 5'10". Yeah, so she's pretty tall, and I think she could still do it. I don't think that moment has passed. Although, I think the ideal point for that would have been somewhere in like 2016, and we're not really, there anymore. And by the way, what we're introducing Dazzler in, who knows? Marvel has not, made any public announcement that they're going to make a show or a movie or a music video series, which I think could be cool. If it was me, if I'm in charge of it, Jabberjaw. If you're not familiar, Jabberjaw was kind of like Scooby-Doo, but they were banned and they had a shark, I believe. I really don't know very much about Jabberjaw, but have Allison go on tour like the Scooby-Doo gang and solve some, mysteries related to mutants and like go and make it kind of like the Mandalorian and like one of those shows where she just goes from town to town, does a mutant thing, and then, it can have some connection to like a big Celine arc. I'd say Dazzler's friends are some of those X-Men that were popular in the 80s. Longshot, one of the Mojo characters, very strong relationship with him. Lila Cheney, the other musician. I don't remember if they hung out a lot, but obviously they traveled in the same circles. And Lila Cheney was also a mutant. And then Beast, there was like this spin-off series called Beauty and the Beast after Dazzler's book, where it was like, Beast and Dazzler, are they a couple? What's going on? And everybody was like, probably not. And then it didn't really go anywhere. They spent some time together. There's the Exterminators, Jubilee, Boom Boom, Laura, and then there's her crew from the new book, which I think is a good crew because it had Multiple Man, who was, a stagehand and stuff, Domino, who was security for her concerts, Shark Girl, who played drums, Wind Dancer, I feel like was in charge of scheduling, and then like my personal favorite deep cut mutant, Strong Guy, was her like main roadie because he's the big guy who can like pick up an amp, and also he used to work as Lila Cheney's bodyguard. Like that's how he was introduced in comics. Either way, those are the kind of characters like you could do a Jabberjaw kind of story where Dazzler and these guys go on a tour. And it doesn't have to be like, 5 of them in a bus, but I think you'd want to maybe start it kind of small and give her, she's got big dreams and she's going to be a big star. And she does have a lot of talent and also this mutant ability. Maybe she's trying to hide, but as she's on the road, she keeps noticing that a lot of mutants are being hated and feared, and I've got to look out for them while also maintaining this persona, because that is what gets us the money to continue doing this. And, should I be a public figure supporting mutant kind or should I not? Like, I think that is a really fun pitch for the show. And with that, like, you can introduce different mutants that she like runs into, and at the same time, she can have her band that she travels with. So that's like maybe 3 or 4 other characters. Anyway, this isn't a pitch for the thing. All I want to say is Taylor Swift felt like the right person for Dazzler. I think she could still do it. Seems like she was going to maybe do the Blonde Phantom show, or maybe it was Sydney Sweeney. I have no idea. But there was a rumor. I know we're like, 15 minutes into the video or something. The rumor was that Sabrina Carpenter is going to play Dazzler, or is in talks to play Dazzler in the MCU. I am not a humongous Sabrina Carpenter fan, but I'm pretty aware of Sabrina Carpenter. And beyond just like being familiar with her music, she also seems like she's pretty into being on SNL. She was a big part of the 50th. I believe if you looked at which people were on stage the most, like had the most screen time, she was in the top 10. And then like, so it's like her and then like, Eddie Murphy. So I think she's a born performer. She's been like a performing kid her whole life. I believe her first credit on IMDb is as a dancer on the Just Dance 2 video game. People would probably know her as the co-lead, I guess, of Girl Meets World, that spin-off reboot, whatever you would want to call it, of Boy Meets World. She was not the main girl, but she was, I think, her friend. She did a lot of voice work, and apparently she was also in those Tall Girl movies. You guys remember those? Tall Girl, where it was like, what's she gonna do? She's so tall. I cannot imagine it was not a plot point in that Sabrina Carpenter is quite short. Now, that is one thing. My main thing here, I'm not saying, as a short myself, as a short king or whatever, like 5'6", I understand that we need to give shorter actors the ability to not, be typecasted by their height or whatever. Also, like, we've been doing things with certain actors who I don't want to name, but like who are not as tall as maybe they would like to appear. There's been lots of trickery to make them appear that tall for a while. That being said, Sabrina Carpenter is 5 feet tall, which would make her like the shortest member of any cast in like a movie like this. The thing with whether Sabrina Carpenter is a Dazzler type is she is one of, if not the biggest pop star on the planet. Again, I'm not that into music. There might be someone that's bigger than her, but at the moment, she feels like the big one. She grabs the headlines. She's in the news for dating Barry Keoghan or whatever. And I think she is like fun and personable. I liked her Hot Ones. I don't know. But the question of, is one of the most famous blonde pop stars a Dazzler type is like a weird Ouroboros kind of thing, because then the question is, what's a Dazzler type in today's music ecosystem? And the answer is a Sabrina Carpenter type or a Taylor Swift type, because that character has to constantly be reinvented to fit into the time period. Now, Dazzler could be a period piece. You could set it in the 70s, and then I have no idea who you would want for that. And you could do Black Dazzler, like, that's totally an option. I don't know very many pop stars, but I mean, there's not really like a traditional pop star, but like maybe like a Janelle Monáe or something could do it. But if you want just blonde contemporary pop star in the year 2028 or whenever this movie comes out, Dazzler, even though I don't think she has as much Dazzlerness as, say, Taylor Swift, I think Sabrina Carpenter would make a fine Dazzler, because she is Sabrina Carpenter. And like, if they made a Dazzler thing, what they need to do is like make actual Dazzler songs that Sabrina Carpenter as Dazzler would put out and make it a big deal. Like, I think there's value in bringing someone like Sabrina Carpenter onto the MCU, the same way that there was value in bringing Ariana Grande into Wicked. You know what? She's kind of the other one, but I don't know. I mean, she's got the same kind of vibe, honestly. Ariana Grande could do it too. But there's other people like Lady Gaga who I think maybe is aged out of it, but, could also, I guess, do it. But I think Wicked was an experiment in whether someone like Ariana Grande could, A, lead a movie like this, and B, bring their massive audience to a movie that they maybe wouldn't see otherwise. I think Sabrina Carpenter could do that with Dazzler, especially because no one else has been Dazzler except for that one person in Dark Phoenix very briefly. So, this would be a role that she could make her own. And do I think she wants to do it? I kind of do. She seems like she wants to break through. And again, just from, the SNL and from hearing her talk, she seems like she would like to be an actor. And I think something like Dazzler would be a great place for her to start. And by start, I mean start being in big, humongous movies. So if that is the rumor, I think that is okay. I think Sabrina Carpenter as Dazzler is probably pretty good, and if Marvel could get her, they would be lucky because she'd be a huge get. I do think maybe, and this is just, Sabrina Carpenter's brand is a little bit more edgy than what Dazzler's brand traditionally is, but I don't think that matters because, what are you gonna do? So overall, my thoughts, interesting casting. If this is true, Marvel, it would be great because it would mean Marvel is committed to doing Dazzler stuff, and I think X-Men fans know that there's something there. She would be a cool protagonist for a TV show. And yeah, read some of those comics, Exterminators, the new Dazzler run, or the one from 2010, the one shot. You can get a sense for why this character's fun. And you know what else is fun? This video sponsor, Nebula. I would be surprised if you have not heard of Nebula by now. It is a subscription streaming service that I and a bunch of YouTubers created back years ago, not that long ago, but it's been around for a little while. The goal was we wanted an ecosystem where we could exist outside of the algorithm, so we wouldn't have to cater to views and stuff like that. We'd make the videos that we wanted to make. And at the same time, we wanted to have space to make original projects with bigger budgets, and we have some really cool ones coming out. Obviously, there's stuff like Jet Lag, which is hugely popular, and I don't need to explain probably what jet lag is to you. There's also Abolish Everything, which I really enjoy. Patrick Willems has a short film coming out soon called The Dinner Plan. Maggie Mayfish has a series coming out soon called Amy's Dead End Dream House, which from what I have seen seems like a take on a Pee-wee's Playhouse, one of those shows where the furniture talks to you, but with a more contemporary twist. And I think Maggie and her team are really smart and funny. I cannot wait to see this show. And then one of the biggest things we have coming up is a show we're working on called Subliminal. It's an anthology. It's very dramatic in the vein of things like The Twilight Zone, but instead of being based around some funky science fiction concept or whatever, this is all just based on complicated human relationships. A bunch of cool YouTubers are writing and directing episodes of this. We have actual actors doing this work. This is going to be really exciting. And one of the episodes, one that is going to be directed by Patrick Willems, is written by me. The episode is called Power Trip. I, again, don't want to spoil it because just when it comes out, you watch it and you'll love it. This is really my first Nebula original thing, so I'm very excited about it. I've been writing it for a little while. If you're why is some of the video frequency slowed down a little bit? But I'm done with it, so that's the best part. I've written it, so there it is. It's there. So it is up to Patrick and our production team to put this episode together. I think it is going to be really cool, and you're going to be able to watch that exclusively on Nebula. You can also watch all of my videos early and ad-free, including Nando Cut videos, which go up maybe a couple hours before they go live on YouTube. But still, that's early. You're seeing it before anybody else. And a yearly subscription to Nebula is a steal already at $5 a month or $60 a year. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/The Nando Cut, name of the channel, you can get a year of Nebula for just $3 a month. It is a great deal. It's a great way to see all my videos. There's a bunch of other creators on Nebula who you definitely already like, and there's a bunch of others that we're bringing on as, time goes on. Who knows when you're watching this video? Check out Nebula. There will be people that are not on there when I'm recording it, and we have some pretty cool ones, and I'm excited they're going to be part of Nebula, and we're always growing. So anyway, that is my pitch for Nebula. So watch my videos early and ad-free, and watch Subliminal, specifically my episode and all the other episodes, when they are released in the future. I do not know exactly when, but we're working on it right now, and I'm sure we will have more updates. So follow me on, Twitter and all that stuff. I'm Nando V Movies all over the internet, and you will see updates from me. That's all I got. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.